Good morning, Jefferson. How y'all doing? This is Terry Raposa, broadcasting live on Jefferson State of Mind, and I'm here with my partner, Win Carpenter. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you, Terry?
Doing good.
Good.
Anyway, this morning we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about our court case. We're going to we want to rest any of the misnomers or misunderstandings people might have about what's going on in our case. This is the CFR case.
And what about the people that aren't on Earth? Don't we want them to know as well?
Well, I want them to tell. I want you to tell your friends, your neighbors, everyone on Earth. Tell them, please.
Your enemies, too.
Yeah, your enemies, too. Anybody you can. Anybody that breathes. Your parakeet. Anybody. Anything. But they need to listen to this program. Anyway, what we want to do is we want to say, first of all, it looks as if we are going to court, aren't we, sir?
We are. And it'll actually be March 5th, because that's the Thursday, possibly going March 6th.
Okay, so the 5th is the day.
Yes.
Do you have a time yet, sir?
Do not.
Okay. So, anyway, it'll be March the 5th. I know that we are going down. We're
going to wear our muck boots, because guess where we're going?
Yes, we are going to the Ninth Circuit.
San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to be there with our attorneys, and we'll be in court. More on that, but this is the culmination of around 4 years now, isn't it, Win? Didn't we start this in 2015?
We did, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The attorneys have given us many free hours of time,
yes, with
phone calls, with emails, personal visits, all kinds of different things. They were amazing, especially in the first couple of years of this. We would talk on a Saturday. We would talk on a Sunday. We would hold meetings where we could all get together and talk about what was going on with the court case. We weren't charged for that. There are many costs that go into court. Of course, there's court costs, there's paper, there's secretaries, there's paralegals, there's special witnesses you have to have. We did a writ of mandamus.
Filing fees.
And
duplication of applications of paperwork that have to be set up a certain way, they have to be printed a certain way, they have to be bound a certain way, and only certain companies within the state do that. So guess what? They charge a premium. And then you have multiple copies of each one of those that have to be filed.
Yes, and when we did file originally, it was Win Carpenter and Michael Warnken. And God bless the two of them. They ran all over the place making copies. And once they got everything they thought that the court needed, the court said, no. We want that to go a different way. Win has a long, very humorous story about what he went through that day. And we all thank Win and Michael for that. But we have spent around $550,000. Is that a good approximation?
Closer to 560, somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay, 550, 560.
Yep.
Over the last 4 years for most likely one of the most important court cases in history. It'll be dealing with representation. And, of course, if you want to know what the case is all about, most of you that are on here listening most likely know what the court case is about: lack of representation, delusion to vote, one senator for every million people in California, one assemblyman for every 500,000. You've heard the story. The deal is that this appellate process we are going through is really a pinnacle in this case. Judge Alex Kaczynski will be leading the oral arguments. And the thing that's so important about that is that here's a gentleman who came on, and we are very thankful he came on to help us.
Stuart J.
Stuart J.
Yeah, Stuart.
And, they came on as consultants. Well, Alex Kaczynski stayed on to help us. If people don't know who he is, he was the last Chief Justice of the Ninth Circuit that was basically conservative and a Reagan appointee. Also, Judge Kavanaugh, who is on the Supreme Court, clerked under Judge Kaczynski. Now, Alex Kaczynski has taken our case. He's the lead attorney now, and he will be doing the oral arguments for us on March the 5th.
Correct.
So in doing that, this is a gentleman that I think is not taking this case or taking any of this lightly, because this is an extremely high-profile case, and a person like Alex Kaczynski, a person like Scott Staffney, or a person like Gary Zerman are not people that are going to take cases if they think they're going to lose them.
That's true.
This is the culmination of what's gone on. This is the culmination of everything we've had. As you all know or should know, and if you don't know, the judge in the federal court, Judge Mueller, gave us the three-judge court asked for the three-judge court we were wanting, because as we have said before, the appellate process, when you have a three-judge court in federal court on a lack of representation or dilution of vote case, the appellate process is directly to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, win or lose. That's why we wanted the three-judge court. We got it. We're given it. Then a week later, she changed her mind, which is not only highly irregular, as Alex Kaczynski had said, it
never happened.
Never happened.
It's never happened.
Never happened before.
In any case, in the whole country.
I think this might have been a pivotal point in our case, because what it did is I think it gave our attorneys and Alex Kaczynski quite a bit of motivation to understand the importance of this case. Now, I know we've had, again, a lot of misnomers of what people have said as far as what they don't understand about this case. But, if you're out there, you're listening, please share this, because to be honest with you, we try to do everything we can to make sure that people get information. But there's the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's up to the people listening here to get this program out to everybody. Well,
and keep in mind, too, that the court date that we were talking about just a moment ago, it is the oral argument on the appeal. So we're looking to get the three-judge court, and we should be able to get the decision from that.
I have a question.
That's what we're hoping to get.
I have a question.
Yes,
so
sir.
We will be in front of one judge, correct?
Correct. And
that is the 5th.
That is the 5th.
But no time.
No time. My guess would probably be like 10 o'clock. That's my guess. But we haven't got the confirmation on that yet.
That's me thinking. Maybe we should go down the night before.
Because first thing in the morning is 10 o'clock. First thing in the morning, rise and shine, 10 o'clock.
Well, we have Mark Baird on the line. Mark, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Wayne, how you doing?
Good. How about you? So how's it going up in Siskiyou?
It's snowing right now, but otherwise okay. It's all part of the deal. But I wanted to talk about the case, and the Second Amendment also is pretty prominent these days. So if you guys feel like talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to make sure that everyone understands that it's this appeal to the Ninth Circuit is very important to the case. This is a make or break for us. We really need to win this in the Ninth Circuit so that this case is kicked back to Judge Mueller, and the Ninth Circuit orders her to constitute the three-judge court as she promised to do and issued an order that she was going to do, and then colluded, we believe, with other either members of her party or members of other courts, we don't know, and changed her mind later to deny the people of the state of California justice. In other words, what Judge Mueller was saying is the people of the state of California do not deserve the opportunity to have their grievances regarding the government that we formed to protect our liberties heard in court. She thinks, just like Michael Bloomberg and all the other elite, Governor Gavin Newsom and Senate Pro Tem and all of the people in Sacramento, they believe that you should just shut up and sit down and do what they say. They believe that in every aspect of your life. They believe that you have no direct say in the affairs of your government or the affairs of your family, the affairs of your church, the affairs of your school, the affairs of Second Amendment guarantees. The elites in Sacramento, in fact, the elites in the United States in general, don't believe that you, a person, an independent human being, a citizen of this state and this nation, should have your grievances heard on any level. You should not be represented. You don't deserve it. And here are the reasons why. Because everyone in California is equally disadvantaged by the form of government we have. Therefore, the court can't do anything about it. Here's the other reason. The court says, well, it's really, really hard for us to figure out a solution to this, and therefore, we're not even going to hear the case to begin with. which is ludicrous prima facie because the court created this problem with Gray versus Sanders and Reynolds versus Sims to begin with. In other words, the court itself, the federal courts themselves, created the situation where a few large cities entirely dictate to the state in which they lie how things are going to be, and you, the people of that state, have no say over it apart from trying to complain with no success. And because everyone in the state is equally disadvantaged by this, and I beg to differ with that. Everybody in the state isn't equally disadvantaged by it. People in urban areas have the advantage because they have all the representation and you have none. You have no effective representation. In fact, you don't have any effective representation even if we had more in rural areas, because at 1 for 1,000,000, your state senator doesn't care what you think. Look at Brian Daly and the Daly dynasty. You know, a married couple sits at the dinner table and decides how you're going to live your life in District 1 because you didn't even have the representation to fight the money to get someone who was an independent thinker elected to the job. I mean, the challengers to the Daly dynasty were literally outspent, period. It had nothing to do with platform because neither one of them had one. It had nothing to do with representation because neither one of them's ever done a thing. It had nothing to do with you because neither one of them cares what you think or what you want. It has everything to do with the money. And even the people who think they're in the catbird seat, the people in Los Angeles, Sacramento, and the Bay Area, even they don't really have representation because their representatives don't even care what they think. I mean, go down the street and ask the average guy in San Francisco what he thinks about stepping in poop on his way to the grocery store, or what he thinks about a guy pooping in the aisle in the grocery store. Ask the average person in Los Angeles what they think about 60,000 homeless people living and pooping in the road in Los Angeles. I'll bet you would get a different answer than the one Governor Newsom publicly states. I'll bet you if you ask the average person, is it okay with them to open the southern border, let anybody that wants to come in here, and then publicly, with your money and taxpayers' money, fund all the services that they receive? I'll bet you the average guy might have a little problem with his tax money being spent that way. But you never hear about that because you don't have any representation in Sacramento. This case is pivotal, folks. I mean, you know, the elites of this nation, Michael Bloomberg just said the other day, we can't allow average citizens to walk around with guns. Well, my first question when I heard that, and I don't believe that was exactly how he said it. I believe he announced to the nation, you don't want the average person walking around with a gun. Well, first of all, I would say, well, who are you to decide? Who are these magic people that decide whether we, the people who form this government, deserve the opportunity to protect ourselves and our families in time of need? Who are these magic people? Who is Governor Newsom to speak for you? Who is the legislature of California to tell you that you're going to have to get rid of your gasoline car by 2030 or 2040 or whatever cockamamie scheme they have cooked up now? And what is the magic replacement for the truck that hauls my hay to the ranch that feeds my animals? And once you're limited to 50 gallons of water, well, what if you got a horse? He drinks 50 gallons a day sometimes. I mean, you know, so who are these magic people that tell you how to live your life? Who are the guys that spent $178 million per fish to get 5 salmon to swim back up the Stanislaus River at a cost of $178 million per fish? You know what they could have done? They could have built a fish freeway and made fish aquarium limousines and built fish hotels at the end of at the ocean and at the end of the Stanislaus River, and hired 5,000 fish tenders for each fish, and it would have been more cost-effective than what they did. And you look at the Klamath Basin. The elites in Sacramento want to tear out 4 perfectly good hydroelectric dams that serve 70,000-plus homes with the cheapest, greenest power on the planet. And they've spent over $2 billion saving the coho salmon in the Klamath River, and by their own claim, they haven't saved 1 single fish. In fact, the populations are still crashing. Just ask them, they'll tell you. Or are these the same guys that said by 2020 the world is going to end and the polar ice caps are going to be gone and we'll all be crying for mercy and begging for our lives on the shores of what used to be the beach, but now it's Las Vegas? I mean, these people are so tyrannical and so ridiculous in nature. I just really can't figure out why our lawsuit isn't fully funded and attended by hundreds of thousands of people every time something happens.
Well, with that, we're going to have to go off to a break.
And 3 months later, nothing, not a word from the court. You can't make them perform. There's no legal method to force a judge to do their job. And in fact, Judge Mueller is complaining that, we don't have enough judges, we can't possibly do our work. But at the same time, she's telling the people in the CFR case, no, you don't need more representation. The representatives you have can do their work. So what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander in this case, because she's one of the ruling elites of the Democratic Party. And, of course, they need stuff, but you, the people, don't need any of that same stuff. And then you have more ruling elites like Governor Newsom, who says, don't worry, the police can protect you, when it's categorically a lie, and the Supreme Court says so. The police have no duty to protect you. California law says specifically the police have no duty and no responsibility to protect you and cannot be found liable when they fail to protect you. You had a sheriff, Idaho Tom, who said, you don't need to have everybody doesn't need a gun. They need to ask me permission for a gun. And, my officers deserve more access to firearms than you do because they might need one. I mean, that was the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. You would never need one, but they might need one. Well, they're responding to situations involving citizens, theoretically at least, unless they're responding to calls for service from space aliens. So if those officers need a weapon responding to those situations, then why wouldn't an ordinary citizen who's in the act of being robbed? And that generates the need for the call for service. Why wouldn't the ordinary citizen who's had his home invaded, been burglarized, been assaulted, been robbed, been raped, been murdered, been kidnapped, being held without false imprisonment, why wouldn't that citizen need access to a firearm, but the officer responding to that call for service be more entitled to access to a firearm? I mean, these statements by the ruling elite are absolutely incongruous with the principles of liberty, and I just find the silence deafening. I mean, in Virginia, where none of these gun laws have even passed yet, where the people were just threatened with these atrocious gun laws, man, they've got like 120 Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions. Sheriffs are talking about deputizing ordinary citizens. District attorneys and counties are telling the state, we will not enforce these laws. People are standing up. They're about to have a huge rally in Richmond, Virginia, their capital, against this tyranny. And here in California, we've had these tyrannical laws for 20 years, and Siskiyou County is the only county in California out of 58 counties that's even made a stab, and they've passed the Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. But unfortunately, we don't have a constitutional sheriff, so he won't help with that. What I can't figure out is why doesn't anyone care?
Well, there were a lot of people that cared that night. There was a lot of people there, and we gave them a hard time. The challenge I'm talking about the other 39.9 million people in the state of California. Why don't they care? I agree.
Yeah, I know there's a couple hundred of us that care. There might even be a couple hundred in each county that care.
I agree.
But what I'm wondering is, why doesn't the average guy that walks into Sportsman's Warehouse or Walmart or Safeway or Rayleigh's or going in to pay his property taxes, because you don't own your property, you just rent it from the California government, why don't they care? I'm sincerely asking a question. I would love for some of your listeners to call in and explain to me why most people don't care.
Great.
Apparently, the DMV, there was a so-called snafu where a bunch of people were basically unregistered. They unregistered people from their party. So say if you're a registered Republican, that was erased. And what happened was they sent out a mailer for you to sign up for your party. Well, the only problem is what they sent out, and you can see it, is the only people you could register on this form is nonpartisan, American Independent, Democratic, and Libertarian. There's no Republican on there. So I'll call in and...
No. Stay with me for a minute here, because I did hear about this. You mentioned it on Sovereign Minds last week.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was a joke. Well, I went down to Kathy Darling.
Okay, go ahead.
The city clerk's office, and went in there, and they were really nice about it. They explained to me what happened. And if you go in there and go, hey, I want to register, for a party, they give you a form to fill out, which does have the Republican Party. But the thing is this mailer that was sent out only has the 4 parties on it. And they showed me that mailer, so I seen it in person.
Well, Nick got one. I know that Nick got one, and so you did confirm that. That's great with the county. That's great. Okay, because that's a snafu. Is that a snafu that is an intentional snafu, or is that just a boo-boo?
Somebody at the top had to authorize that.
You think?
Yep.
And the thing is, though, what I seen was posted on December 9th.
Right.
And this says to return it by January 3rd of 2020, which was a couple days ago. Well, what if it got lost in the mail, so to speak? Then you wouldn't be registered as a Republican.
Right.
So I think there was some sinister motives behind this.
Well, would people not be registered, period? If they're not re-registering, are they completely out of it?
I would think so, yeah, because you wouldn't be able to vote in, I believe it was everything, like any local things, but you could, I guess, vote in the primary. So I was a little unclear on that, but yeah, I think you wouldn't be registered.
Well,
so I had to have them go on the computer and make sure that I was still registered.
Yeah, so that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Go to your county website and double check and make sure that you are indeed registered. And if you want to just drop by your county registrar's office, do that as well. So you can go in and you can share your dissatisfaction with the process, not with them because they didn't do it, but with the state.
Well, Mark, there you go, a snafu, something that was unintentional, right?
Well, listen to what Jimmy says. There you go.
Sure.
What more do you need? Really.
I know.
What more is it going to take to wake the average guy up? They do these kinds of things with impunity. There are 5 million extra voters on the rolls. Ain't no big deal. Illegal aliens are being automatically registered to vote because now they can get a driver's license. Hey, no big deal. The DMV has a little snafu, and they forget to include one of the major political parties on the registration mailer. Oh, boy, that's a little bit. That's not like having a run-on sentence. That's not like omitting a comma or misspelling the word dimwitocrat or something. That's not like that. That's I would say that omission wouldn't escape the eyes of anyone but someone with a mission. So, there's the state for you. They want everything you have. They want to give you nothing in return. They want you to be subservient. They can do whatever they want. There are no consequences for them ever when they do it. What more is it going to take? We've had zero population growth because people flooding out of the state to go to places where they have some liberty and some measure of independence. And the rest of us are going to be left stuck with the bill for all the idiotic things that have yet to come down the pipe. And believe me, I don't know what 1,000 laws got passed, and most of them idiotic. In other words, you can't have a plastic straw, and you can't have more than 50 gallons of water a month, and you're not going to be able to have a car that has gasoline in it, and you're not going to be able to heat your home. And by the way, when the wind blows, they turn off the electricity. I think we ought to just change the name of this state to Venezuela and get ready for what's coming.
Well, the thing is that if you're in San Francisco, you can poop on the sidewalk, but if your dog does, you get a fine.
Yeah. You can steal things too. You can commit crimes. You can steal merchandise with impunity. You can beat people up and not go to jail. What more is it going to take? I don't know. I kind of see a little picture forming here, just dimly in my mind. But there's a picture being painted here, and unless we wake up and take a look at it, we deserve whatever happens to us. Remember, you don't get the government you deserve. You get the government you allow.